I want to talk to you about toxic friendship. So, I assume that people know from my channel that even though I talk a lot about family relationships, that pretty much everything that I talk about can be applied to a friendship. But it just doesn't hurt to actually spend a little bit of time talking about friendships. So, healthy friendships have mutual interests, mutual care, mutual support, meaning it goes two ways. You both care about each other, you both support each other, you both give and take, you both initiate, and you both enjoy being together. That's a healthy friendship. Now, some friendships have an imbalance, and as long as you have some friendships that have an imbalance and other friendships that have a balance, you can choose to keep a friendship with an imbalance in your life. It might be that you're helping somebody. It might be that you're ministering to somebody, that you're witnessing to somebody. It might be that you are choosing to be a loving influence in somebody's life because you really think that the Lord has put wants you to and has put a burden on your heart to be in this person's life. So we can give more than we get in some of our relationships. Those of you that are codependent, as I was a while ago, many years ago, may find that most of your friends are all people that you give to, and there's not a lot of mutual friendships. But when I recognized that, then I worked on having mutual friendships along with some of the people that I have friendships with that I give to, because I need to be nurtured too, and I deserve to have friendships. You have to realize that. You can't keep giving, 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 or you will burn out. It's not healthy. So, toxic friendships are friendships that lack one or more of those things. They lack mutual interest, care, support, give and take, initiation, and enjoyment. And instead of bringing good into your life, which friendships are supposed to do, they bring harm because toxic means to harm. So if somebody is bringing harm into your life, it means that they are hurting you or possibly your family in some way. One or more ways. Could be hurting your health, could be taking time away from you, could be causing you too much stress, too much worry, too much emotional roller coaster ups and downs, too much heavy thinking about what happened and was that manipulative? Did I react okay? Did I say the right thing? Did I say something that caused this person to get mad at me? If you're spending a lot of time thinking about that and having to figure it out and rehash it like you would in a difficult marriage, then that might be time that you don't have, that you don't want to spend on that. So you need to recognize that toxic friendships are not something that you have to have. Friendships are voluntary. They are not, you don't have ties to them like you do with family members and with, say, a marriage. They may feel like you've invested for a while and that you have a relationship, and maybe you've had a good friendship for a while and then it's deteriorated, something has changed in that person's life, or maybe you've gotten healthier and you've recognized now that this friendship has always been an imbalance, and now it's no longer feels good to you because you've grown, and that's a good awareness. But sometimes it makes you feel guilty. It's like, well, we've been there for each other, and this person has been there in my life, and I feel really bad about letting this person go because I've just gotten healthier, because I'm no longer enjoying this friendship. So sometimes it feels really hard to do that, and that's okay. A lot of times we feel false guilt. We feel bad when we're doing something that isn't wrong. It feels wrong because we're not used to doing it. Maybe you're not used to saying no, and you're not used to ending a friendship, not used to taking care of yourself, and maybe feel bad when you do that. So, but we can talk more about that in a minute. There are different kinds of toxic friendships, and this is not, a complete list. I'm sure I could add other types of toxic friends, but one of those is a manipulative friend, somebody who manipulates you to get their way. So what they do is they might threaten you. They might intimidate you. They might kind of bribe you. They might make you promises or promise you gifts if you do something. They might play the victim card, like they're always the victim, and try to induce guilt in you and make you feel bad. They might use projection and project their stuff onto you and make you feel like you're the bad guy when you say no, or accuse you or blame you of things. When somebody is using a tactic to get you to give in to what they want, instead of asking you directly, will you do blank for me? Will you help me? Will you drive me? Will you lend me some money? Will you meet me today to talk to me? When instead of asking directly, where you can say yes or no, they will try to threaten you, or they'll guilt you. Oh, I know you never have time for me. I know you're so busy. I know that you've got much more important things to do. Or, you know what, if you do this for me, I promise you that I'll be there for you, every time you need a ride somewhere. And from the past that this doesn't happen. Or every time that you call me and you have something to ask me, I'll do it for you. So it might be whatever that is. You can sense the pressure and the lack of direct request and recognize this is manipulation. Manipulation isn't healthy. Some people don't ask directly, they always manipulate. So you can notice that you're always feeling kind of pressured and you're always trying to figure things out, and you find yourself saying yes to things you don't really want to say yes to. That might be a manipulative person. Manipulative people don't usually change quickly, and they usually get pretty angry if you ask them or confront them with the manipulation and ask them to please ask me directly. They'll usually lash out at you because they're not willing to be confronted on the manipulation, because they're not healthy, and they ask in ways that manipulate rather than asking directly. So if you allow the manipulation and you keep that person in your life and you don't stand strong with that, you may find yourself giving into it. The second one is people who are self-centered. It's all about them, all about their wants, all about their needs, all about their problems, all about whatever they want to talk about, where they want to go, what they want to do. When you bring up a problem, they'll just turn that, or something that's, upsetting you that you are, or you want to share something even happy. The person will completely use that and turn it around and put the focus back on them. They aren't going to spend time talking about what you want to talk about. So if you notice that it's all one-sided and you recognize that there's no place for you, there's no time to talk about things that you're interested in, things that are going on in your life, then that's not a mutual friendship. That's not mutual care, mutual interest. And after a while, that is not enjoyable. That is just you giving and you going along with that person, and you're going to get burned out. Next one is people you no longer enjoy being with. And, friendships are not all for a lifetime. Sometimes we outgrow people because we change. We change our circumstances. Maybe you have had a good friend and the two of you spent a long time together when you were single, but now you're married and you have a child and your interests are different than that friend who's still doing the things that you did together when you were single. So you may notice that when you're around that friend, that the friend is wanting you to do those things still, and you're not comfortable. Or maybe you get in trouble with your spouse when you want to go do those. Or maybe your spouse doesn't like you hang around that friend. Or maybe there's really nothing to talk about because you don't want to talk about the things you talked about when you were single. And that person's not really celebrating your marriage life and your children. So sometimes you outgrow a friendship. Sometimes you outgrow a friendship just because your perspective has changed. Maybe you've grown closer to the Lord and this person hasn't. or you have taken on some new interests or some new understandings of things and this person disagrees with it, or maybe this person has grown in directions that you no longer really kind of click with, or maybe you just kind of grown and you're just different. Each of you has grown apart. If you don't enjoy being with that person, and if you still hang on to that person out of an obligation, but don't really enjoy it, you will get to the point where you almost despise that person. You just hate the idea of that person calling, don't like being with them. You can even kind of put a spoil on even the friendship you did have. And then people have told me at times that sometimes they feel obligated to bring a friend into new friendships with them, and that has sometimes affected their new friendships because the new friends aren't necessarily taking to the other friend that was on the outside, and that it has impacted their new friendship. So, you always want to be a nice, caring, considerate person who is concerned with other people, but not to the point where you harm yourself and you harm your life, and not to where you're taking on obligation that truly isn't yours. Friendships don't have to be forever. Like I said, you don't want to be mean. You don't want to be unconcerned. You don't want to be, if you know somebody's in a very vulnerable spot and you're the only person that's in their life, you want to think twice before completely abandoning that person. But doesn't mean you have to spend as much time with them. It doesn't mean you have to talk every single time the person calls. And it doesn't mean if that person really is toxic for you, or your life has truly taken a different direction and you don't have time, that you have any obligation for that person. The next one is people who are malicious and they want to harm you. Malicious means to seek to hurt you. They want to hurt you. They want to hurt you by sharing information with other people to malign you. They would be willing to lie about you. They would be willing to stab you in the back. They would be willing to even share confidential information. They're willing to just whatever it is, hurt you. And they're willing to do it, and even though you can see that it's malicious. And those are truly toxic people. You do not have to have malicious people in your life. Even if you have malicious family members, you need to put up some very firm boundaries with them. But malicious friendships, there's no place for being in a malicious friendship with somebody who is willing to harm you. You don't owe that person anything. You owe yourself the right to protect yourself from further harm. And the next one is people who they criticize you, they attack you, they blame you, put you down. And if you bring it up to them and you tell them, I was hurt by that, or I don't understand why you said that, I don't understand why you responded that way, I don't understand why you attacked me when I said that, instead of addressing it, stopping and thinking about what was said and what they did to where they can be accountable and apologize or figure it out. Instead, they turn around and they attack you again. They're defensive. They won't look at themselves. They will not own up to any of those things. And no matter what, they're just going to end up coming after you. Now, this may be the first time in a friendship that might have seemed pretty good, that this person that you haven't been able to actually work through or resolve a problem, or be able to talk about something and get to a place of understanding and mutual respect. But if it's the first time and you've gotten to that place, then you've learned something important. And if you find yourself trying to talk about something in a healthy way in the friendship and the person can't, and the person ends up mad at you, then you've just learned some important information about this person. And unless this person was just having a bad day and you try it again, but if you see that you actually have somebody who is going to be very defensive and not be able to resolve problems, then that's a sign that this person isn't really healthy. and that you won't be able to have the mutuality and going deeper with your friendship and being able to be vulnerable and to share important things and to share truth when you're hurt. That's a huge part of getting closer in a relationship, is to being able to tell somebody that something was done that bothered you and have the person be able to not be defensive and to think about what was done and to try to understand it, to learn more about you and to learn more about themselves, and to try to work towards having a mutually beneficial relationship. And if somebody can't do that, that's a limit in your relationship, and you might want to reassess that when that's really obvious. So the bottom line, you don't have to maintain a friendship with anyone. Friendships are voluntary relationships. There are no have-tos. You may experience some guilt when you're letting go of that friendship. Now, that's pretty normal. If you're a conscientious, caring person, you're not going to be able to do that easily without thinking about, how is this going to hurt that person? How is this going to affect that person? Maybe you're going to wonder what the person's going to think about you, which you can't control. But, that doesn't mean you can't do it. Now, how do you do that? Well, you can consider the friend and whether or not you can have a conversation about, we're growing apart, or we no longer live as close together, or we don't have the same things in common anymore. Maybe you can have a conversation about it. And so I love being upfront and honest as much as possible in your relationships. But there are some people that by doing that and talking to them about the why of ending a relationship is literally opening up what they say is a can of worms. And all kinds of issues are going to happen. And if you're dealing with somebody who's truly toxic and not healthy, probably will not be able to handle you speaking the truth. And by doing that, you may cause yourself more harm than good. So carefully assess who you're dealing with, what you need to say, how that person will react before you make a decision on talking to them and being honest about all the reasons. Or another thing you can do is you can just not initiate getting together with them as much. You can just kind of get busy in your own life and not call and say, hey, do you want to hang out? Or you can be busy when they call you, say, I really just don't have time to get together. And so you can not get together as often, not talk on the phone. You can talk less on the phone. You can not initiate phone calls with them, not be the one that calls. If the person asks you, why are you not calling? Why are you not saying yes to anything that I ask you to do? There's where, again, you have to assess, am I better off telling them the truth, or am I better off with just avoiding a big blow up and just saying, I'm really busy. I just really don't have the same amount of time to give to this friendship. And or you can figure out what level of honesty that you can go with this person. So like I said, you can befriend some people in having an unbalanced relationship if you're honest with yourself about why, I'm going to help this person. I'm making a choice to love on this person and to care about this person, even though I don't get anything back. That we need to have people in our life that we do that to. We need to do that for people that we help, an elderly person, a person who is unable to help themselves. It would be somebody who you're going to give and you're not going to get anything from. Maybe somebody that is even not really 100% fun for you to be around, but you're in a giving relationship. That is part of our relationships need to be that way, but not all of them. So as long as you're honest about that, you can have relationships like that. It's perfectly healthy if you're honest with the what and the why, and you make sure it's not causing you harm. So remember, you can end toxic friendships. You can end them because for you don't have to continue in them, because friendships are, there's nothing that requires you to be invested in them for life. And our needs change, our lives change, our relationships change, and friendships are some of them. I have a few friends I've had my whole life, and I those friendships, no matter what, they'll always be there. But there's even been some really close friendships that, because I've moved or because we've changed our lives, our schedules, that they've kind of fallen apart. But so anyway, your friendships are voluntary, and you can choose how much to invest in any particular friendship. So a couple of verses. I know in the Psalms, Psalm 41:9, it says, "Even my close friend, someone I trusted, one who shared my bread, has turned against me." So you can have somebody who you thought was close, and they can turn on you, and they can reveal that they are now a toxic friend. Proverbs 12:26 says, "The righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray." So you're going to choose your friends carefully, with forethought. In Proverbs 27:9, "Perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice." The pleasantness of a friend. Friends should be pleasant and enjoyable. So I hope that this video has helped you. One of the things that I do through my channel is, if you have a friendship dilemma that you want me to address, you can write me to my email address through my website, and I can give you some input on that particular situation. So please keep that in mind for your relationship issues and questions. So thank you for watching.